Greetings and welcome to the Black Doctoral Network's weekly series, Conversation Starters. I am your moderator, Dr. Janelle C. Hall, and I am thrilled you can join us this evening for another impactful dialogue surrounding a great topic. We will be discussing the importance of professional development during graduate studies. I am so excited we have some brilliant panelists joining us this evening to really share their insights surrounding this topic. Our first panelist joining us this evening is Dr. Melanie Shelton Williams. Dr. Shelton Williams is a native of Hampton Roads, Virginia. She earned her Doctor of Philosophy in English from Old Dominion University in 2014. She also obtained her master's degree from Old Dominion University in 2009, and her bachelor's from Virginia Commonwealth University in 2005. In May of 2021, at age 36, she will complete her second doctorate, a Doctor of Ministry from Virginia Union University. Dr. Mel, as she's affectionately called, is currently an assistant professor of English at Norfolk State University. Outside of her academic endeavors, she runs a faith-based nonprofit, the Dreams Institute, providing ministry and resources to underserved students and women of color, and has joined Riverside Regional Health System as chaplain. Dr. Mel serves in ministry at the Mount, based in Chesapeake, Virginia. Welcome, Dr. Mel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Next, we have Dr. Felicia Moore Menza. Dr. Menza is a professor of science, education, and vice department chair of mathematics, science, and technology at Teachers College, Columbia University. She has published extensively where her work addresses issues of diversity, equity, and identity in science education. Her most recent research utilized critical race theory and intersectionality to transform teacher education research and practices by looking at the experiences of teachers of color and preparing future educators for racial literacy. Dr. Menza was the recipient of the 2017 Outstanding Science Teacher Educator of the Year, the 2012 Early Career Award, Division K Teaching and Teacher Education, and an Equity and Ethics Scholar in 2005. Dr. Menza is a past president of Sisters of the Academy Institute, an organization that supports the success of Black women in higher education. Among other activities, she is co-editor of the Journal of Research in Science Teaching and lead editor of Cultural Studies of Science Education. She is also the founding associate director of CITED, the Center of Innovation in Teacher Education and Development, which is a joint endeavor of King's College in London and Teachers College in New York City, with the aim to promote and study critical innovation in the field of teacher education. I welcome you, Dr. Menza.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Our third panelist joining us this evening is Dr. D. Anthony Miles. Dr. Miles is a serial entrepreneurial, award-winning researcher, award-winning professor, award-winning statistician, legal expert, witness, business expert, best-selling author. He is a CEO and founder of Miles Development Industry Corporation, a consulting practice and venture capital firm. Dr. Miles is nationally known startup marketing expert. He is also host and executive producer of Game On Business Talk radio show. He has presented his statistics research at conferences around the country. Most notably, he has presented at Stanford University. He was invited to Harvard University by the Harvard Business School. He has over 20 years in retail, banking, and financial services industries. He developed a business plan for Brooks AFB City Base. He has 12 years experience consulting startups. He has 11 years experience as a marketing, research, analytics, survey design, data collection, and focus groups. He is a member of the American Statistical Association, promoting the practice and profession of statistics. I welcome you, Dr. Miles.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Last but certainly not least, we have Dr. Stanley Harris. Dr. Harris serves as Director of Professional Learning with Verizon Innovative Learning Schools. He has more than 20 years of combined experience in business, technology, and education, with learning the alignment of technology implementations with organizational initiatives. He has career experiences as a researcher, entrepreneur, management consultant, project manager, middle school special education teacher covering all subjects, and as an assistant lecturer in graduate teacher preparation program. Stanley's doctoral research examined the professional learning practices involved in innovative technology implementation during COVID-19. Stanley earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in marketing from Morehouse, both MBA and MSIS in Information Systems from the University of Maryland, and an MSED in Education from Hunter's College, and an EDD in Educational Leadership from UCLA. Stanley is passionate about using innovative technology to enhance learning and empower individuals to produce systematic change in education sector. Welcome, Dr. Harris.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this.
So let's get started. So the first question I have is, how do you define professional development? Dr. Williams, let's start with you.
I'm still muted. Okay, I think you can hear me now. I think when we consider professional development, it really is a complex subject. And sometimes we try to reduce it down to maybe just taking some training courses or doing some, extra reading. But really, professional development, I think, is the whole holistic approach to nurturing who you're becoming, growing as an individual, as a career professional, in whatever sectors of industry or academia that you traverse. So I really think it composes many different things. And, it's important for us to recognize that it's not just a one-time thing. So we don't develop one time and we're done. We really do it, I believe, over the course of our journey in our careers and our professions.
Dr. Miles?
When I think of professional development, I think of it as a somewhat of a workshop or something of that sort for you to perfect your craft, because a lot of people after they graduate, masters or their doctorate or whatever it may be, it seems like people stop learning. And when you're in a craft of anything, whatever your field is, you always have to be perfecting your craft. And thank goodness that I still keep learning, and I still keep learning things, because I think the more I've learned over the past, 10 years after I graduated, I found so much more that I didn't know. So I think you should look at these professional development activities as a way to sharpen your skill. Always perfect your craft in your field, and always try to be on the cutting edge of your field. Don't let things sneak up on you. That's what I think of when I think of professional development.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Menza?
Yeah, so I think it's really a continuous process of professional and personal growth and development. It also has a lot to do with your own reflection about where you've gone, where you want to go, where you want to see yourself. So I think with the other panelists so far, it is that continuous. It's a lifelong process that you go through for professional development. It never stops. So I just think about it in terms of that continuum that we all do to learn and to grow.
And Dr. Harris?
Yes, putting my spin on it, I would say it's what you need to do to develop yourself, to either learn new skills or to develop skills further that you already have, to really go from one level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs all the way to self-actualization. So it's going from you need your food and water, so you're developing these skills so you can be employed, but then you're really working toward that self-actualization where you become the person who you're supposed to be. So that's how I feel that is supposed to work.
Thank you. Thank you all for that insight. My next question is, how would you describe the relationship between professional development and academic success? Dr. Miles?
Oh, goodness, you would ask me that would start this off. I like to think that we want to bridge the gap between the academic world and the practitioner world, because both of them are quite vital. I don't see them as one is better than the other. I see them as two leaves on the same branch. They just take a different approach. And I like to think that when you bridge those two worlds, that you want to always have some type of relationship between the two. I consider myself both. I'm a statistician. I'm also have my hand in the academic world. And a book that I read that really fascinated me was by Robert Greene, and the book was named Mastery. And what fascinated me about the book, to go along with your question, is what I got from the book is you're not a master until you have developed a certain level of mastery. It's kind of like the movie Kung Fu, that TV show. By the time the student learns, when you can take the pebble from the palm of your master, it's time for you to go, because you've already learned everything. So what you want to do is you always want to have your hands in both of them. In mastery, can you say you're a master in your field? A lot of people can't say that. So you want to definitely keep that bridge between the two of them, because one is not better than the other. I see the academic right hand and I see the practitioner side to be left-handed or professional. So you want to have your hands in both. You want to be a well-rounded person, or well-rounded master in your craft. And I think that's the way I look at it, is total mastery is you're a master on the academic side, you're a master on the practitioner, the professional side. So you attain total mastery.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Menza?
Yes, actually, when I think about this, often in academia, they talk about your expertise. And I think that's part of what it is, the idea of the mastery. And so there's this development of expertise that you do, but it occurs over time. So it's part of that professional development that you're doing. So your professional development is assisting you to be able to grow into this area of mastery or this area of expertise. And again, it's something that you don't get overnight. It's going to be developed over time. It's that continuous questioning and asking about yourself. What skills do you want to produce? What additional skills you want to add on to that? And so they're going to work together. I mean, it's definitely true around the ideas of being, the connections between the practice and the learning and the academic side of it. So I'm a teacher, a practitioner as a teacher, and I'm constantly thinking about my practice as a teacher when I'm teaching and thinking about it in connection to my research and my research agenda. So they are very much connected and very much connected to each other to be able to help me to develop that kind of expertise that I want. But you don't do this in isolation either. I think when you're working around your professional development, your academic learning, it's going to be in community with other people. They're going to push you so that you will be able to grow and have that expertise and that knowledge that you need to in whatever field that you choose to do. So to me, it's looking at those very much connected and closely related.
Okay. Dr. Harris?
Yes, I look at them as very intertwined, and they must be aligned. Because one way to look at it is that the academic side is, okay, what do you need to know in order to do your job? While the professional development is, okay, let's take that and how do you actually apply it in the real world? So that's why I say that they have to be aligned, because just having the knowledge it can get you so far, but then you realize, okay, how do I actually apply this in the real world? So that's why I see professional development and the relationship between the two as complementary.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Mel?
I think particularly as a faculty member, one of the things that I really try to emphasize with my students is that even when you think about where you see yourself in the future, what career you want to have, that as much as you can get learning in the classroom, as was just mentioned, there is this kind of praxis that has to take place. There has to be this application. And then as you engage in that application, you develop as a professional. One of my mentors always says, Dr. Valerie Brown always says, more is caught than can never be taught. So there's this idea that as much as we're getting in the classroom, at some point we've got to step out into different sectors and apply that knowledge, as the other panelists have suggested. So I really think it's important for us to consider the value of the academic degree, and yet see education as almost giving us a bridge into that professional sector. And then we enter those spaces and use the skills that we have, and then hone those skills and continue to nurture and grow those skills over time.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question is, what are the types of professional development structures available to graduate students? Dr. Menza, I'll start with you.
Thank you for that question. You know, I'm the academic advisor of one of the student organizations on campus of the Black Student Network. And so I will start there, like being able to have the structures within graduate programs or graduate schools or just school to be able to be part of a professional organization on campus. So we have an annual conference that we put on every year for students to be able to present their work in the very early stages. So that's part of their professional development. But another one is actually for graduate students or to get connected to your professional organizations, getting membership. This is a perfect time to do it because often as a graduate student, the fee is less. So it gives you a chance to have all access just like everyone else, but at that graduate student fee. Yeah. And even within the professional organization, there's a graduate student forum. So there are things that they're doing together as graduate students. And so even access to journals, because you're a graduate student, the fee for the journal access may be a little bit less. Another one is just really getting yourself out there to be able to think about the structure of conferences is mainly what I'm trying to say in my response. And just getting connected so that people will get to know you. So people will get to know, you get to know the organization a lot better. So there are some structures that are there right in your institution, student organizations, and then think about the professional organizations that you can become a member of.
Thank you. I did all of those things you just mentioned. So thank you for that. You just confirmed that I was on the right track, obviously. Dr. Harris?
Yes, I would add to that by saying also there's career centers at most universities and colleges. And those are very, very good for professional development because I was, for instance, a graduate consultant at the Career Center at UCLA in which we had various workshops to help students practice their skills in like resume writing or developing their LinkedIn or how to actually search for jobs. So I think that's one thing that a lot of students need to know is that there's career centers specifically to help you with finding a job in your chosen career path.
Very, very true. That's a huge resource because some of the career centers have lifelong benefits. So you could graduate. It's not when you cross the stage. When you graduate, you still have access to that resource. With resume writing, interview, mock interviewing, all of those things are still available to graduates once upon commencement. So yes, that is huge, 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 huge. And the job bank, they have access to the job bank. Dr. Miles?
I have a different approach to that. I say that I tell students, especially that's what I try to talk to about any type of professional development, try to find a mentor and try to find somebody that can open up doors for you. Like what I do is I say, okay, there's a presentation at the school. There's a conference at the school or something. Try to, put your name in the hat and maybe you'll get chosen. And what I try to tell students is try to have a body of work by the time you graduate. You don't have to be like me. I'm hella published, but I'm saying, try to build your body of work. Try to build your work so you can also build your brand. I like what you said, Dr. Harris. But one of the things that you want to do is the goal is when you graduate, have a body of work, a body of some things that you worked on. Like I took 2 doctorate students with me and we ended up winning an award at a conference for best paper. Well, what was my reason for doing that? Well, I took you along and I tried to, get your feet wet in terms of professional development. And also you got an award out of the deal. So when you submit your Vita or resume to somebody, they say you won an award for some statistics research. See, I'm thinking not when you graduate, I'm thinking 2 or 3 years post-graduation. So that's what I think you should look at opportunities. They may not necessarily be in professional development. They may be a conference. They may be a way to present yourselves to people. And my goal is I try to create scholars. And I try to create scholars through either professional development or conferences. And I tell students all the time, don't be that guy the year you graduate and you're over here signing up for the pie eating contest because you don't have nothing on your CV. Basket weaving, you want to build your portfolio of work, your body of work. So I think that's some of the things they could do to take advantage of professional development in a non-direct way, maybe an indirect way.
Thank you, Dr. Miles. Dr. Mel?
And I would just kind of piggyback off of that, maybe the non-traditional format to building your development. I love to, even in my own life, connect with other individuals that are like-minded, that are pursuing the same things research-wise. I have a cohort of sisters. We're all I guess we're all still kind of junior faculty. Some of us have, kind of transitioned to getting or securing tenure, but we work together. We present together. We do conferences together. We write recommendation letters. We just have this core unit, and our job really is to lift one another up. And so just kind of to give a story, we all worked on one paper, and I think we all presented it as the lead or the chair of a panel. So we were just touring. Like one year, we all took this same paper and we just kind of took it to a series of conferences. But that allowed us to kind of continue to build our CV, to continue to gain notoriety in the different fields that we're researching in. And I think it's also good to have people that are going to challenge you. And so I see them win all the time, and it inspires me. And so depending on where some people might be institutional, at an institution, they may not have the framework. Every institution is not the same. And so some career centers are amazing, and then some may be lacking what the resources that others have. So I think being very progressive and forward thinking and doing it yourself sometimes as grad students, that's what it takes, and being hungry for that. So if you don't see it, you've got that burden or responsibility to create it for yourself. And then the beauty of that is you get to decide who makes up your network. And don't be afraid to, I think as one person mentioned, reach out for that person that you think, man, if I could just work with them, that would be awesome. Why not? Go for it and see what happens.
When I'm hearing you speaking, is an old time skill set that people used to put on their resume called self-starter. They don't use that anymore, but that's what we need. Self-starter. So yes, be hungry and, willing to, get what you want. So my next question, what are some of the benefits and challenges in obtaining professional development opportunities? Dr. Harris?
Yeah, I think there's some definite benefits. I could just go on a list, but I think the main thing is that you'll learn something new, you'll develop some of your skills. But I think that I'll focus on the challenge. The challenge is really putting yourself in the mindset of, okay, I might know something, but if I go to this, I might learn something new. For instance, I've been working on my resume for such a long time, for literally decades. And one thing that I did was I would still go to the Career Center at UCLA before they hired me, because they kept seeing me so much. And they said, hey, let's just hire this guy. I still kept going because every time I went, I asked a question or I learned something new. So I always went with my glass was half empty. And I think that's the big challenge that a lot of people have. Oh, I've been to all these things before. I'm not going to learn anything new. But, you have to come with okay, what don't I know? Let me ask them about that to at least come away with at least one little gem. If you can do that, then that's great.
I agree. It's always a takeaway with something. Always. Dr. Miles?
The opportunities and benefits are there. You just have to, put your antenna up. You have to use your mind's eye. You have to see what everybody else doesn't see. And I think the challenge, and I'll piggyback on something Dr. Harris said, I think the challenge is, are you willing to empty your cup? Are you willing to say, I don't know everything? Would I take the challenge of learning something new? And I think all of us are probably very much accomplished in our fields. And I find myself challenging that, and I'm sure other people do too. Are you willing to empty your cup? Are you willing to take the challenge of learning something that's totally outside your circle of competence? And I think that's the challenge for a lot of our people, for professionals and non-professionals and graduate. You have to ask yourself, are you willing to start from zero and empty your cup? And a lot of people are not willing to do that. I can speak from personal experience. I don't like learning. I'm something new, and I think that's been my challenge. And I think those present some of the greatest opportunities, learning a new field, because you never know who's watching you. You never know who may pick you to speak on a panel or interview you on CNN and ask you about something. Thank God you emptied your cup and learned something that you didn't know before. So I would say that's the challenge: learn how to empty your cup.
Learn how to empty your cup. I like that. Dr. Menza?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to say something different from what everyone else has said, and it's actually quite obvious. Whenever I say it, you'll say yes, time and money. So we often think that we don't have time for professional development. You actually do have some time for professional development.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make it a priority. And now taking advantage of everything that's been happening with COVID, there's so many things that are online now that don't cost in terms of your professional development. Even going back to that mentor that you might want to work with, that person could be from afar. But they may be doing some speaking engagements. I did this early on last summer. There was 2 scholars I just followed. So I just went searching for them on YouTube, and their presentations were up. I had my notebook and I was taking notes. And so that was my professional development. It was free. I just went online through YouTube to do it. So we want to be able to think about the investment in our lives and our futures with this professional development. So the things that you might not think you have the time for, you do have time for it if you make time for it. It's a priority. I don't have any money. Well, there are things out there that don't cost anything for you to be able to engage in professional development. The other one, as people were also talking about, is getting added to listservs. That's another way that things can come to your inbox, so you don't actually have to go out and search for it. So those professional organizations that I mentioned a little earlier, is like if you signed up for them, there may be speakers inside your own organization that may be doing workshops. Definitely social media, so your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram. People are putting lots of information out there now, so it's time to take advantage of that and consider that as well as your professional development.
I'm going to just stand on your heels for a moment, because on LinkedIn, I personally seen tons of professional development that I partake in with. So there it is out there, and it's for free, and it's definitely worth the take. There's a certificate by the University of Florida for diversity and inclusion certificate for free. 7 weeks free, and you walk away with a certificate. So that's pretty awesome as well. Dr. Mel?
Well, as an English professor, I'm big on reading. So I always try to emphasize that, as I think, as Dr. Menza said, even if you cannot necessarily get physically to the conference or register even for that, you can read. You can pull up the latest articles. You can do the audibles. I love the audiobooks. I tell people all the time, I probably read 3 to 4 books a month. And I might even be lowballing that number. But it's because literally I play in the kitchen, when I'm doing different things. So just constantly, educating myself and learning new things. I think that, emptying your cup is a great, way to put that. I love that imagery of that. Mm-hmm. But the idea that, we stretch ourselves and we continue to increase our capacity the more that we learn. And sometimes you can be very well versed, and then I'll listen to somebody and say, I have not heard that before. And my gosh, the way the terms are changing, even within certain disciplines and even related to social issues, I can hear something and think, okay, I need to figure out what does that mean? And so being, I think, innovative and up to date, in the know, that's one of the benefits of professional development, is that you kind of stay in the know. And in order to, I think, call yourself an expert, you have to do that. So I think one of the greatest benefits about seeking that out and doing the work of developing yourself is that you maintain that sense of knowledge, you expand your knowledge, and you build, that repository, if you will, of information that you have.
I like that. Staying in the know, continuously staying sharp, building a repository. Excellent, excellent. I love it. Dr. Miles, we touched on this a little bit, so I'm going to start with you so you could expound a little bit more on it. What are the benefits of attending conferences and networking events during graduate studies?
Goodness, doctoral or graduate? I'll take both of them. We're presenting people that we're saying are very accomplished in their field. So I use conferences as sort of a mini dissertation defenses. And a lot of times when I bring a student under my wing, I say, I'm going to throw you out there. If you don't know your stuff, you're going to embarrass yourself. You're not going to embarrass me. I got mucho awards, and a lot of times they step up to the plate. And I would think that you want to use conferences somewhat as an apprenticeship to help students or graduate students to build a scholarship. I had one of my mentors, a professor from Africa. He was a brilliant brother, spoke 5 languages. He pulled me to the side my first year of my doctoral program and asked me, would I be interested in presenting at a conference at Brigham Young? And I was like, what? You know, I had no concept of what a conference was. I had, and I try to do that forward. I try to pull a student to the side and say, you should do this conference. I would like you to present with me. You're a young student. You need to get some, build a body of work. And by the time you graduate, you have somewhat of a modicum of body of work. And I think that the opportunity and benefits of conferences is it puts you on the spot. You get to have to, learn how to answer questions. You can't go to the book and go look up the answer. You have to think on your feet. And sometimes it's not a nice place. It's not a happy place. I had a Asian professor challenge my statistics at a conference, and I couldn't react to it. I had to be diplomatic, but it made me very angry. And it's things like that you just can't replicate at your school. You have to get put in a fire like that. So the benefits of doing those things is being able to get put on the spot, having to answer a question that you might not only answer, and having a decent answer, and being able to accept the challenge of someone challenging your research. Yeah. You can't get that out of a book. That's just something you have to experience hands-on. I think that's some of the benefits of doing things like conferences when you're a graduate student.
Dr. Menza? Thank you, Dr. Miles.
Yes, thank you. So thinking about going to conferences in two different ways, for you to be seen and for them to see you. Mm-hmm. And so when I was attending conferences as a graduate student, I did not know until I was a junior faculty. I had a colleague who came back to tell me, he said, people were looking at you when you were a graduate student. And so when you're presenting your work and you're out there defending your work and you have this certain professionalism about you, people take notice of it, and especially scholars of color. And so they would track you. I was tracked through my time as a graduate student from attending conferences and didn't even know it. And so people are looking at you. They want really bright, brilliant people such as ourselves. And so getting your work out there and getting your message out there, it shows who you are. The other one is that when you go to conferences, this is like cutting edge work right there. It's not even published yet most of the time. And so this gives you an opportunity to see what's current in the field, to see how your work may actually be fit and situated within that context as well. So attending the conferences is, again, it's like the whole conversation we're having tonight is about professional development. So it is a tremendous professional development opportunity when you're able to go to the conferences, whether you're presenting your work or you're listening to other people to present. But the other one, especially for students, this is your professional network. When you go to conferences, you're able to meet other graduate students and doctoral students at the same level that you're in, and you literally grow with them in academia with them at the same time. So it becomes your professional friendships, your family, kind of like community. And so attending conferences has a benefit over your lifetime. So it's really important to go ahead and get in there very early on for that growth and that development, for, as I said, for people to see you, for you to see people, and for you to grow and develop that network.
I like that, Dr. Menza. Thank you so much. Dr. Mel?
I like both of their answers. And just to add to that, I think for anybody that might have struggled or struggles with imposter syndrome, that sense of I don't belong here, I've worked really, really hard. You have the degree, maybe you have the background, you have the research, you've done the work, but then there's that intimidation factor that can come out. And sometimes you don't even know it's there until you get to the conference and you see who else is speaking, and then, you have to work through that. And so conferences, I think, are great, as the panelists mentioned, to help you kind of work through those feelings. And it's not to say you'll completely rid yourself of the butterflies or the nervousness, but I think the more you do it, as with anything, you develop that sense of appreciation for what you bring to the table, what you can add. And I think probably all of us can remember a time where we know we did a presentation and we killed it. And that feeling of like, I killed that, I feel so good about that. And you can't replicate that any other way. That has to be experienced to develop that knowledge and those skills. And so I think, again, you can't, undervalue conferences at all, because it gives you the opportunity to prove not only to others, but even to yourself, it's in me. It's here. I did it. I know the information. I've got it. Now I just need to go ahead and apply it. So, they're invaluable.
Yes, and imposter syndrome is real, and it happens to sneak up on you sometimes. That subconscious part of your mind, it is you saying yes, and then that little piece of your mind is saying no, you can't do it. So it's real. It happens, and we have to constantly build ourselves up. Dr. Harris.
Yeah, so I think that, well, first of all, I think every conference is a networking event, but not every networking event is a conference. Because like I have experience with conferences from a master's level and a doctoral level. At the master's level, I'm a lifetime member of National Black MBA. Pretty much every job that I got up until I switched to education, I got it at a National Black MBA conference because it makes you perfect your 30-second elevator speech in which you can say exactly who you are, what you're looking for, and what you can bring to the table. And after going through them after so long, you perfect it. And then you also build as a networking tool, you build that network. So like if you're looking for a job or if you want to get some information or or an informational interview, you have that. Now at a doctoral level, my mentor, who actually happened to be the chair of the program at the School of Education at the time, she was like, I want you to have a conference for us, an ed tech conference, the first ever at the school. And I looked at it as like, yeah, I'll do it, because it was a win-win situation, because I got the list of everybody who she knew that was in the ed tech field, which is what I wanted to go into. A person who was a main speaker actually worked for the company that I'm working for now. So maybe there's a little connection there. And so when I went for the job, she knew me because we had that connection, and she knew I was passionate about it, because, I mean, if you're creating a conference, you're obviously passionate about that particular subject. So it shows a level of commitment when you go to these conferences. And then it also helps you perfect your speaking skills in terms of, okay, who you're about, what you're trying to do, you know, what benefit are you going to bring to the company, or, you know, like how you can make those connections with other people.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Yes, an elevator speech is something that we must perfect. Absolutely. So my next question, do you think that the current educational system provides the necessary foundation for professional development opportunities for graduate students? Dr. Mel?
In all honesty, I would probably say no. Not as well as it could. You know, there, like I said, and you know, that's a really broad question, because there's so many different disciplines, so many different pathways. So and then of course, I'm on the humanities side, so I'm not a STEM person. So there are a lot of different little things there that could really inform that question. But I would say for myself, I would love to see again, more of a bridge between what students are required to do in the classroom or in an academic setting and the professional world, so that there's an understanding, that when you enter into industry, it may be completely different than what you experience in the classroom setting. And so the expectation, again, is that the degree is basically the launching pad. And some students see it as the end all be all. And they get out and they have the degree, and now they find there's so much more work that has to be done. There are certifications and other types of things that are going to set them apart. And so I think if we don't prepare graduate students early on to have that mentality that this is a long game, this is not something that is going to be a short-lived when it comes to developing and nurturing who you are. And again, it depends on institution. And so I feel like part of the reason and one of the reasons I started my nonprofit is so that I can mentor graduate students, particularly women of color and African-American females, in that vein, to say that, you really have to be innovative. You really have to be a go-getter. You really have to desire to hone your craft and your skill set, to attend conferences, to, if you desire to publish, or depending on where you want to go, you're going to have to do these things. And so just, I think more preparation is needed. And again, I can't speak for every institution, but I do think that is probably a place where there is a need. And as all the panelists that we have here tonight kind of have emphasized, that it really takes, the mentality of desiring to meet that need and to be pursuing it, rather just waiting for it to happen to you, waiting for someone to come tap you on the shoulder and say, come to this conference. No, to some degree, you've got to decide, no, I've got to go to. So you can't wait for people to come get you. You've got to be really kind of, aggressive in that regard. So.
Absolutely. As you stated previously, you have to be hungry. Dr. Miles?
That's a good question. I would say I don't think so. I think a lot of times the professional development that's offered is probably, really esoteric for some particular fields. So what a person has to do, they have to step outside of their circle of comfort and look for opportunities that are outside of the university and try to, partner and meet other people. They may have a hand and, open up doors for you outside of the university. I would say you want to, play the university deck closely, but also look beyond that and, be proactive, maybe not so much reactive. And I mean, proactive is seek opportunities outside the university, because those may be some of the people that may want to hire you or maybe want to consider you for projects. Like in my case, when you said Brook City based, the reason how I was able to get that contract is because I was a doctoral student and they saw me. I had to do an internship with the City of San Antonio Economic Development Department. This was not on the school's radar, and they asked me to be a consultant to do the business plan for Brook City based. They were getting wrecked. I wouldn't have never got that opportunity had I not been at the right place at the right time. Sometimes it's just timing. So I think you should consider your university as a home base. Look at things that they offer, and if they're insufficient, you should look for things outside of the university to make sure that you maximize your opportunities and things that they may not have for you, because sometimes your school may not be pushing your field of study. So you have to go outside of that and try to build relationships with people outside of university. So that's the best way I would say how someone could take advantage of that.
Thank you, Dr. Miles. Dr. Menza?
All right, so I don't have very much to add to it, but I just hear the idea of just self-advocacy. So you're going to have to learn to advocate for yourself. And this is a skill that you'll have to have for continuously. You're going to have to advocate for yourself when you're passing that cert exam, for that dissertation defense, for all of that, going to conferences, as we've mentioned. So being able to advocate for yourself, even in your institution, if there are no resources there for you, how might you and some of the other doctoral students and graduate students get together and go to your dean or your department chair, or go to your higher up administration and say what it is that you need? We've had students to do that on our campuses before. And so we are very pro student activism in terms of getting what you want. And so don't be afraid to ask for what you want. And then again, what was said, if the resource is not there in your institution, there are other places to go and do that. But again, you have to be proactive, as the other panelists said, to go out and find out those things that you need. But also, when I was just really rethinking about this particular question, it made me think about just mentorship in general. Not everybody has a mentoring spirit. So you're going to have to find people that you can connect with, same thing with your advisee kind of a relationship. Find somebody who truly wants to be there for you and have you and your interests at heart, and find somebody to be able to do that, to help you through this program. And as Dr. Mel said, that may be an organization that you're in. So like Sisters of the Academy was that for me. And so just finding somebody who's going to be there to help to nurture and to grow you, to help fill in those gaps of what you did not get in your education. But don't sit there. Don't sit in loneliness. Don't sit in isolation, but go out and get that, because other people are probably feeling the same way. So when you find them, then start to build your community of support.
Thank you, Dr. Menza. Dr. Harris?
Yes, I would agree. And I would say, if you're asking a question like, I think I'll take a different take on it. I think the school system could do a better job of saying, this is what we have. This is what you can take advantage of. And I think on the student side, they could do a better job, as was said before, of, okay, what can I take advantage of at this particular school? So I think it's something that has to be met both ways. As was said before, you can take, it's sort of like you can bring a horse to the water, but you can't make the horse drink. So I mean that all the resources could be there, but the students still need to take advantage of those resources. And then also, like I said, it also comes to marketing. The school has to let you know this is what we have. So I think it's a 50-50.
I like that, marketing, letting the students know what they have available for them. My next question, what disparities have you witnessed that impact African-American students pursuing professional development opportunities? Dr. Mel.
Well, I think, you know, it really can, in some ways, be impacted by where students do decide to do their graduate study. You know, I think teaching at an HBCU, I attended PWIs up until my second doctorate. So teaching at an HBCU, I feel like our institution does a great job of creating that sense of community and ensuring that opportunities are there for our students, making sure that we're bringing in the corporations, the grants, working with organizations like UNCF. So being very strategic in ensuring African American students and students of color are getting those opportunities. However, if you are at a PWI, which is what I came through, I experienced a lot of isolation and a sense of loneliness. And maybe the opportunities weren't necessarily catered towards me. And that's not to say I was barred from pursuing certain opportunities, but because my research interests were basically African American rhetoric, African American literature, and history, you know, out the gate, I was kind of told you're here, but you know, I don't know who's going to help you while you're getting through. And so that meant I did have to look outward, and it did require me then to kind of look to the community to build that that engagement. So I think acknowledging perhaps that all opportunities may not necessarily be tailored towards students of color, but I think also at the same time maybe not recognizing that there is a sense of othering that can happen, especially if you are the only you know, Black or brown person in the program, and it may not necessarily be intentional. But we know these kind of institutional systems are what they are. So these structures, I mean, I can remember during the pandemic, the trending hashtag Black in the Ivory, and all of the different scholars that were talking about the negative experiences that they've had as scholars. And it went from just maybe not being recognized for the work that they're doing, the requirement to mentor Black students, especially at institutions where there may not be a lot of African-American or Black professors. So all of these things that can play a part and how students experience their lives. So I think it's just maybe a lack of awareness or a refusal in some cases to address the fact that particularly students of color may be feeling isolated on campus or in the programs, and then what can be done. And then I think giving students the platform, I think in part to do the research that matters to them. And sometimes it may be with a focus that may not necessarily align with what the school does, but broadening that so that students can do the work that they're passionate about. So those are just some things that I've recognized that when I look at other institutions or in my own experiences, you know, have happened or occurred.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Mel. Dr. Menza?
Yes, I was just talking to a group of students this week about their particular research interests and not having someone to talk about their work with. And so being able to develop that network again, as I keep saying, like I'm very pro students getting together and networking. But on the other end of that, like if your professor doesn't understand your work, educate the person. Now send them the article that you're reading and ask it, you know, has to have a conversation with them about your work. Inform them about what you're passionate about in terms of the research that you want to do. And so students, African-American students or students of color tend to be very shy about that, not going to office hours. This is the opportunity for professors to get to know you. You get to know them a little bit more. And if opportunities come up, surely the students that have been into my office are the ones that I think about first. So don't be shy in trying to get to know your professors and letting them know if you have particular kinds of needs, especially financial, if you want to do research opportunities and things like that. No, we can't read your mind. And so develop that again, that advocacy of yourself, to go in their offices and talk with them and share them, tell them why you're engaged in your research. Tell them what you want to do with your degree when you're done with it. You know, what are what kind of like trajectory do you have for your professional career? And so some of that really does take a lot of what is it? Lost the word. What's it take? I don't know, you're kind of like this inner strength in you. That's not the word that I'm looking for, but but just really to kind of like advocate for yourself, that you want to be able to do this. And so that's how I kind of like thought about that question. It's like the professional development opportunities are there for you, but sometimes you really do have to seek them out. But you also let people know what you need around some of these opportunities. But I think just really educating people when they don't know what it is that you're doing, definitely your advisors and people that like that are going to be part of your committees and all of that, informing them ahead of time, and they can help to direct you, or they may have another friend or a scholar in the field that will be able to that can direct you to as well. So again, I think we've been saying this kind of like the message is this extension of networking opportunities that we are able to do.
Thank you, Dr. Menza. Dr. Miles?
I just have a completely different take on that question. I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution, and I can tell you the disparities that I witnessed at a predominantly white school, and that is access to resources. What I noticed while I was at school, there was some type of way that they didn't give Black graduate students and doctoral students access to resources. And the way I found out about certain resources, because all the Asian girls in my school liked me for some reason. I don't know if I was non-threatening. I got the Brian Gumble thing on. I'm clean shaven. And they would always tell me things that my chair or people in my faculty never told me about resources. And I think that's the major disparity that I see is African-American students are not being given access to resources. And I live by the motto that, the late Marva Collins says, you can't teach a student unless you have some love for them. And we have people that are teaching at the university that don't have any love for their students, particularly African-American students. So what I like to see is have the African-American students or graduate students have more access to resources. A lot of things that I found out was not because my chair or the faculty told me about it. I found out from students that were non-Black that gave me access or told me about resources. And then we really need to stop that. I think it's silly. I think it's stupid and it's counterproductive. And that's the kind of disparities of some of the things that I've been seeing. And hopefully we can overcome that without, the scourge of racism at the higher education level.
Thank you, Dr. Miles. Dr. Harris? You're on mute, Dr. Harris.
Sorry, I would say that learning how to build rapport with people who don't necessarily look like you or have the same cultural background. That's one of the things that I did when I was at UCLA. I was one of the few Black doctoral students there, but I went into office hours. I got to know not only the chair of the department, but I got to know the assistants, the people who make all the copies. Those are the people who sit at the front desk. Those are the people who you need to know because they know everything. Because one time I was just on campus just studying, and one of the ladies, she went by, she was like, "Are you hungry?" I was like, "Yeah, a graduate student, you're always hungry." So I was like, "Yeah, I'm hungry." She said, "Follow me." And she took me to UCLA has it's a school with the #1 food in the of any college university in the country as ranking. So she was like, "Oh, they're having a food tasting here for new food that they're going to have." And so I got to taste braised ribs, and I mean, the food was great. And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't build that rapport with that person. And it goes to you build that personal rapport, and then they let you know about professional development opportunities. Like for instance, like I said, going back to Dr. Rose, who was the chair of the department, she wouldn't have told me that, hey, you need to start this conference or trusted me with that if I didn't build that rapport and she didn't get to know who I was and what I wanted to do.
Thank you. So we are going to practice our elevator speech because I want to squeeze this last question in. So we're going to 30 seconds. How has your affiliation with the Black Doctoral Network helped to enhance you personally and professionally? Dr. Menza.
Well, it's given me the opportunity to meet fabulous people. It's given me the opportunity to share what I know and be a benefit to other people around me.
Thank you. Dr. Miles.
It's been quite an opportunity. I think the BDN, having affiliation with BDN has opened up doors for me, helped me. I met someone at the BDN and I finished my 4th book. And I think had I not met that person, I would not have the inspiration of writing that book. So I think what it's done for me is extended what I was already doing to the new frontier, new opportunities. And I say that's the benefit of being affiliated with the BDN.
Dr. Harris?
Having opportunities such as this in order to share your expertise and to also get feedback and listen to other people in a professional setting. I think that's phenomenal.
And Dr. Mel?
Well, I presented one presentation at BDN, and then I chaired a panel another year. So it gave me a lot of experience in developing myself professionally. So attending these conferences has been essential for my CV and continuing to grow as a scholar.
Thank you, panelists, for joining me for this impactful conversation and sharing your insights and expertise with the audience. Before we close the show, I would like for each of you to share your contact information with the audience. Dr. Harris?
Yes, I can be reached by email at stanley_o_harris@yahoo.com or on LinkedIn at Stanley O. Harris.
Dr. Menza?
Yes, you all can reach me at fm2140@tc.columbia.edu, but I'm also on Twitter at Doc Menza.
Dr. Mel?
All right, y'all, you can reach me at Dr. Melody. That's my handle on Twitter and IG. I'm always on social media. And then my Facebook for my nonprofit is facebook.com/The Dreams Institute.
And Dr. Miles?
Yes, you can reach me at my business email, dmiles@mdircorpventures.com. And also I'm on LinkedIn. I don't remember my LinkedIn handle, but those 2 ways you can definitely reach me.
Again, thank you. It is my hope you all enjoyed the conversation. If you enjoyed this topic and would like to be a part of the Black Doctoral Network, please join us at blackphdnetwork.org to become a member. Follow us on Facebook. I am your moderator, Dr. Janelle C. Hall, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great evening.